Congresswoman, you just had a monumental bill signed into law. Tell me about what it does in terms of protections for abuse victims.
It's so exciting. This is the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act. As we've watched, frankly, online sex trafficking move from the streets to the internet, more and more women and children have been victimized by this horrific modern-day sex slavery that's out there. So this bill goes right to the heart of those websites, not just Backpage.com, but the hundreds of others that are out there that are flooding the system and preying upon our women and children. So this has got a tough criminal component to it to give prosecutors the tools to go after these websites and these online predators. It has a civil component that's going to help give justice to our victims, and it goes into the Communications Decency Act and narrowly tweaks it to make it clear to the courts, to the public, to the victims that Congress never intended to make the internet a red light district. If it's a crime offline, it's a crime online, and we are coming for you.
So that's what I find really interesting about this, particularly on a day and a week where Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg is testifying, is that this is really addressing big tech companies. Talk to me about the role that big tech played in either supporting or in some cases not supporting this specific piece of legislation.
I've spent the better part of 6 years that I've been here in Congress fighting against Google and big tech. Facebook got on board late, but big tech has fought this over and over again, saying that it has something to do with the freedom of speech. Criminal activity is not free speech. Preying upon the most vulnerable in our society, women and children, and selling them into the sex trade is not free speech. So we have plodded through this, and I think it was kind of a perfect storm. The elevation of education and awareness out there on sex trafficking has really risen. NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, has been working with us along with so many other advocates and victims. And then we had their support along with prosecutors and law enforcement and the Department of Justice that said, craft the bill this way. This is what will give us the tools to shut these predators down. And then, of course, I think the other piece of the perfect storm was to have big tech back on their heels. You know, Facebook is facing the music now, and others will too, if they don't police themselves and put in some best practices to protect our data, our information, to be the good stewards of the internet that they claim to be. We have this going on with our Facebook CEO and president, and I have fought it on the front of sex trafficking online too. So it's time they clean up their act.
Moving on, in terms of another big development here on Capitol Hill, House Speaker Paul Ryan announcing that he will not be seeking re-election. Who would you like to see replace him?
Well, I mean, we'll see. This is, I was surprised about the timing. I'm not surprised that our speaker is moving on and back into private life. It was an emotional conference. You know, Paul has been terrific. This is a job that kind of chose him. He didn't choose it. He's been in Congress now for 20 years, and he gave a very heartfelt story about his children. I mean, he was a single man, 28 years old when he came to Congress. Now he's got married with 3 kids. They only know him, as he said, as a weekend dad. So, and now as Speaker is a Sunday dad. So he wants to be a full-time dad as his children move into their teenage years. And Paul's been, as I said, a reluctant but a strong warrior, doing big things like tax reform, something he's worked on the major part of his tenure here, along with the fact that he's really, what he called upon us as a conference to do is, and he says it all the time, raise your gaze, you know, go above it, look to do the big things, bring people together. He's been a unifying factor in our conference, and I don't know what happens now. I guess the race is on, but I will say this. The most important thing is for us to keep our majority. So,
do you think this is a foreshadowing that perhaps there could be some trouble by his decision not to run for re-election?
Oh, I don't think his decision has anything to do with that. He's going to be with us. He's raised a lot of money for the NRCC and other members. He's been supportive of our legislation. He said today he's going to run it through the tape at the end, and he'll be with us all the way through the election in November. But every single member of Congress needs to step up their game and realize that they had better start talking to their constituents and talking about the issues that are important to them. The only way to get elected is to deal with those state and local issues that are inherent to a congressional district, and each member's got to stand for re-election and be able to prove to the electorate that they are worthy of walking these halls of Congress and of serving and representing them. So everybody's got to work hard. We've got to keep this majority, support our president and the team so that we can do good things like we did today in signing the sex trafficking legislation.
One final question before we have to jet out of here for the wrapping of the hearing. Syria, military response, would you be in support of that?
Well, and that might be premature, what I'm in support of is the President of the United States, and I was with him earlier today. Whatever action he takes, I believe, in a bipartisan fashion, we will stand with our President, who's standing against the greatest atrocity, chemical weapons, the annihilation of his own people. It's outrageous, it's atrocious. I sit on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and we're going to make sure that we support our President in whatever action he decides to take.
Congresswoman Wagner, thank you for your time, and congratulations on the bill, the bipartisan bill. Thank you.
Thank you.